Good morning everyone and welcome to the Digital Coffee. That's the social media news you need to know this week. If you know somebody who would like to view this show that might be missing it, do click the share button underneath. Let them know about it. This is everything you need to know about social media this week. And it's called the Digital Coffee for a reason, because this is your coffee break. So I do hope you've got a cuppa in front of you. If you do, let me know what you've got. I have a lovely cup of coffee in my very fancy Le Creuset mug this week. So do let me know what you're drinking. And this week hasn't been as mad busy as the last few weeks news-wise, which is good. In fact, for the first time in a long time, I don't have 3 Twitter birds on my board. Let's have a look at it. Let's look at the topics we'll be discussing this week. Sound of me dropping the board. Here we go, a little bit battered, but here's our social media news board for this week. We've got Facebook. Hi Sinead, what are you drinking? We've got a couple of bits of Pinterest news. Pinterest has hit the board big time this week. 3 bits of Facebook news. Twitter is making an appearance, and we have some YouTube news as well. Before I get fully started, I just want to remind you, as if you're in a couple, there's no way you're going to forget this. If you're single, there's no way you're going to forget this. But it is Valentine's Day next week. If you haven't, good morning, Kate. Thanks for joining. Do let me know what you're drinking. And hence my love board. Do you like this? I just got this. I'm kind of in love with this. You're on a bus. Oh, I hate that. I hate being on a bus and a train and there's no service and you have to like wait for your cup of tea, Sinead. I feel for you. So because it's Valentine's Day next week and because it's Friday, you've got a cup of tea. How nice. You've still got time to create your Valentine's content. Now, there is very few businesses that wouldn't have some sort of way they can tie into Valentine's Day. Whatever it is, what you love about your business, what you love about your employees, what you love about your customers. We know Kate loves pets, so we're going to have that. See if you can find something. It could be a blog post or just an image that you put up on Valentine's Day. Don't just go for the happy Valentine's Day. Everyone does that. Find some way to tie it into your business and you'll probably see great results. I don't know if Elaine Rogers is joining us today, but she's a member of my small business bloggers group and I'm delighted to see she has her Valentine's blog post out already. I'll be sharing that over in the group later on. Okay, so on to the news. What we start with? We start with a bit of Facebook. Start with a bit of Facebook because I can intersperse the Facebook news throughout the day. Here's my notes. Okay, the first interesting thing about Facebook. Now, this isn't available to everyone yet. I have a few screen grabs that I've taken from the blog post that I'm going to link to that will show you what it is. There is going to be a new tab. They are testing it in Australia and New Zealand on your Facebook, your profile page, which helps you discover people. This is really interesting because there's been other discover tools there before. But like LinkedIn, a lot of people who started on Facebook were very passionate about just becoming friends with the people they knew, and it was very similar on LinkedIn for a long time. You know, they even recommended you only connected with people you know. And since then, social networks have smartened up a bit. They've realized that the more people you connect to, the more you post, the more you're on site, the more ads they can sell, basically. So Facebook are now proactively finding people, encouraging you to find new people to connect to. And they're looking to connect you with people who have similar interests and this is a really cool thing. I think this is one you used to be able to do on LinkedIn and I think it was a mistake that they got rid of it. It's great from Facebook's point of view that now you'll be able to see who's going to events nearby and you'll be able to friend them. So I have got a couple of screen caps to show you how this is going to work. Here's the first one. So this is from the mobile app. Available in Australia and New Zealand and somewhere like Uganda, I think. So here's the first screen grab. So you can see that's from your mobile. There'll be the Discover Friends tab. And then when you click that, it will go through and it'll ask you to update your profile to make sure your profile's in order. And then once you've done that, so this is the second screen grab. Once you've done that, you'll get a list of events that are happening nearby. And then you can click on somebody that's nearby and request to become friends with them, or somebody that's going to one of those events. Now, this will be fabulous for any of you that read my post last week on networking. If you're going to an event, you know, some of going to an event can be very scary because you don't know who's going. If you can make these connections on Facebook before you go, that's going to be hugely valuable, particularly to businesses who go to like conferences and stuff all the time where it's more anonymous. Hi, Diana. Yeah, it's going to be brilliant for live events. I'd say we'll use this at Social Media Marketing World in order to connect with people. And I do find now these days, whereas I used to keep my Facebook very, very close to just close friends, these days I am connecting with more business people. I am using it as my primary tool for connecting to business people instead of LinkedIn. Hi, Marie. Thanks for joining. Diana, Marie, do you have a drink? If not, here's one. Actually, Sinead, I can hand this over to you and that might help you with your tea situation. Did you get it? So that's the first bit of news. I think this will be a massive bonus for Facebook. There are people I only know on LinkedIn and there are people I only know on Facebook, but definitely the line is getting blurred between our personal lives and our business lives. Our poor Sinead, she's no tea. She's no tea. And you have tea, Diana. That's great. Okay, so that is really interesting. And coming to that, if you are in my Facebook group, which I think most of you watching are, you'll know that I asked, should I switch the name of my page over to my name and my business name this week? And I do think this is a definite trend that we are becoming more personal in our businesses. People really do want to get to know us. So we need to be more embracing of becoming friends on Facebook with business connections. So I'm up for it now. I am making connections with business people and it has changed the way I use Facebook a bit, but it's also been hugely beneficial to me. On to the second bit of news. So we're getting on to the first bit of Pinterest news. This actually happened last week, but I didn't get it in time for last week's show. And this is a new type of ad, or a new thing really, that Pinterest are promoting as part of Pinterest, and that is search and search ads. They've discovered that, you know, people don't go onto Pinterest and search for a particular brand or a particular person. They go there searching for inspiration. We kind of know that. If you're a Pinterest user, you know that. So people might type in, and the example they've given in their blog post is socks. You might go and type in signature socks. And what you get is a load of results for signature socks. You, as a business, not in Ireland yet, but soon apparently, will now be able to target those search terms just like you do on Google AdWords in order to make sure you're coming up in those search results. And of course this makes so much sense because that's the way people use Pinterest. It's very well trying to just deliver them the same way we deliver Facebook ads to the people. But by delivering this way in search results, you're going to get far better results because people are proactively looking for what you do. And we know they're searching for inspiration and they're searching to shop. I think this will be huge for retailers. I'm just grabbing my notes. I never gave a thumbs up or a heart to anything there, did I? So we're going to give a big heart to Pinterest for that. I think that's a brilliant idea. Well done, Pinterest. And they are a very, very smart company, I have to say. On to, ooh, this is a biggie. Does anyone know what the YouTube news is? YouTube have finally, and this is kind of annoying to me because I just wrote my section in my book about live streaming, and when I was doing that I was trying to go, YouTube said they were going to roll out live streaming from a mobile phone. There's all these screen grabs of what it's going to look like, but it's not there. And then I thought, is it just Ireland it's not there for? I did some research. No, not there. Well, it is now. Well, kind of. This week, Facebook, YouTube finally rolled out their live streaming service. But it's only available to people with over 10,000 subscribers. At first I saw 1,000, I'm on like 500 and something. I thought, oh, I may be able to get that. But no, 10,000 people. So it's a long way off for us. Finally, they've done this. Apparently, it's a lot like Periscope. It's a lot like Facebook Live. You get interaction the way you're talking to me now. You get people liking and commenting or giving you props or whatever it happens to be. What really surprises me about this was, and I know I'm not the first to say it, is that YouTube was at the cutting edge of live video. They were doing live video before Periscope thought of it, or before Meerkat thought of it. They were doing Hangouts on air, which was a great tool. Then they discontinued that and made it really hard to go live from your desktop. You needed like third-party software. So I decided, yeah, not going to bother with that. Then I think they've come along with this too late. So yes, people who are big YouTubers already will use YouTube Live. There's no doubt about that to me. People with that big audience, that's where they reside, will use it. But they're not going to take any of the market share from Facebook Live, from Periscope. It's just not going to happen because they're too late to the party. So they're only going to capture their own people. And maybe a few of those are live streaming elsewhere. But it's not going to be a big hit. I think they missed the ball on this one. However, I think I might give it a go when they roll it out to everyone. Let me know if you think differently. Of course, I could be completely wrong. I often am. Twitter. Now, we did mention this last week briefly, that Twitter had said that they were going to be rolling out some brand new safety features to combat abuse. And they said they were going to be rolling it out in days rather than months or years. So they have. This is good. And I think this is really important from Twitter's point of view. They've just had a bad week. They've just shown that their profitability has plateaued. So their revenue, sorry, not their profitability, all those accounting things mean nothing to me, but their revenue has plateaued. They haven't seen an increase in revenue from ads. So it's been a bad quarter for them. But I do think they're taking a very clever approach with these safety updates, because I think a lot of the reason people don't interact on Twitter is that they're scared to. I know Sian last week left a comment on the live video, not live, but just saying that she had a friend who was using Twitter, not much, got attacked by a whole load of people who disagreed with something she said about Donald Trump. And I think it was a relatively mild comment about Donald Trump as well. And I think that has scared a lot of people off. And that sort of thing, it's not just what's been going on recently in politics. This has been going on, you know, we had the whole Gamergate scenario. So it has scared people off. Now, Twitter are very smartly, or some may say finally, dealing with this, and this could be the thing that helps them out. So firstly, something that abusers do on Twitter is they'll get banned from Twitter, they'll go and they start another account immediately. Do I think Twitter is dead? No, I absolutely don't think Twitter is dead, Eleanor. I think that Twitter will be there forever. It is part of our ecosystem. It is probably going to need to make some massive changes in order to make it profitable, or it's going to get acquired by someone. But I totally don't. I think it's a wonderful space. I still love it as much as I did. I just think they need to get those users in interacting. So the updates are, firstly, if somebody is banned, yeah, me too, Marie. It is stagnating a bit, Sinead, you're absolutely right, but I think it will always be there as a source of news. I mean, when's the last time you switched on the news and they didn't mention Twitter? That's the thing. Okay, they're going to stop people who've been banned creating new accounts just to abuse people. And we've seen this. We see this a lot. I think there was a big, I didn't even want to mention it, but there was a bit of a furore in the blogging community in Ireland recently. And that was happening. People were setting up new accounts just to abuse people. Bad behaviour. Twitter are going to put a stop to that, which I think is, let's give them a massive thumbs up for that. Well done, Twitter. The second thing they're talking about doing is that Now, I haven't seen this because I don't block or hide many people on Twitter, but apparently, so if you have done this, you might know, tweets from blocked and muted accounts won't appear in search results. Does that mean that if you've blocked someone already, that you see their tweets still in the search results? If somebody has seen or had experience of that, I'd love to hear. You use Twitter rather than the news, Eleanor. I think a lot, it's the first place I go when I hear there's been a big event or disaster, whatever Twitter, whatever Facebook wants to tell you that they do the breaking news. It's really Twitter. So that's an interesting one. I haven't had experience of it round the other way. I would have assumed when I blocked someone they wouldn't come up in search results, but that's an interesting one to see. Collapsing. Now this is really interesting. Collapsing abusive and low quality replies in the feed. So this is kind of algorithm, but I think it's smart, because what gets people to abuse people is when they see an abusive tweet and everyone wants to jump in one side or the other, and it continues the thing. It makes the people being abused want to continue the thing, because they see they've got supporters. It'd be lovely just to take that out of the feed, take the aggression out of the feed, make it feel like a safer space. Now, of course, you'll be able to see that there are tweets that have been taken out of the feed, and you'll be able to click to see that. My comment that I wrote on this when I first saw it was, is this an algorithm not because they're trying to game the feed, but is it an algorithm because we can't behave? Well, I know I behave on Twitter. I'm sure you all behave on Twitter, but this is much needed. This is much needed if they're going to grow their user base, or if they're going to get their current user base to use Twitter more, to actually interact on Twitter. Okay, I think that's really good news. I've given it a thumbs up. I'm even going to give it a Valentine's heart. Well done, Twitter. Do you like my new thing? I'm obsessed with my new thing. I think this is amazing. I can't wait until I can flip my video around. So, you know, I never checked this morning. Will you bear with me one moment if I can flip my video around yet? No, I can't flip my video around yet, but when I can flip my video around, this is going to be really useful. Okay, so what have I got left? I've got Pinterest, I've got Facebook, and I've got Facebook. I've got 2 Facebook and 1 Pinterest. You love it. I love it too, Diana. I think I want them in all different colours. I kind of, you know, when it was Pound Shop, when I go into Pound Shops, I'm always looking for things for Facebook Live. Right, I'm going to go with a bit of Facebook news so that we can split it up. So just let's admire my handiwork a little bit more. Facebook, the first one is, now this is a really interesting story. Kate's voting for Facebook. That's what we've gone for. This is a really interesting story, and it's been around for a while. I think it emerged just before Christmas. That you can target people within Facebook ads related to their race, apparently. I've not found this because I suppose mostly in Ireland we're still not a very multicultural society, so there wouldn't be enough people of other races that we'd be able to narrow that down. So it's not something I've ever looked at. But apparently in the US you can do this. And they found that people were using this to discriminate against people for housing. So they were blocking out races of people from their ads because they didn't want them living in their neighbourhood. Now, as you can imagine, this didn't go down too well. As you can imagine, people were quite rightly horrified. So Facebook has been dealing with this, and it's taken them quite a long time, but they've introduced some new rules to stop this happening. And I want to say, yeah, Facebook, thanks for doing this, because you can't take, it wasn't just race, it was disability too. You can't take that targeting function away, particularly when you're looking at disability, because there are going to be things that you can offer people with a disability that other people don't need. So if you're going to keep the power of Facebook advertising, that's important. From a race point of view as well, you know, if I opened an African food store in a Thai, you know, I don't want to advertise the foods that people don't know about to everyone beyond it. I could just want to advertise the people in the local community that I know are going to enjoy it most. So I can see why the targeting's there, but they need to stop this discrimination. So what they've done is, firstly, is when an ad advertiser who is offering housing, and there are a couple of other types of ad as well, sets up an ad that uses race as a factor, they will have to sign up to a code of conduct about how they're going to use that. You're absolutely right, Diana. I think they should be allowed to target those groups directly but not be able to exclude them. I'm wondering why they don't go down that route, actually. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe it's something within their functionality that's harder to fix. I don't know. But that's a really good point. So that's first self-regulatory, which we know works to a certain extent. In fact, sometimes when you trust people with their own regulation, it works. But of course, there's always going to be unscrupulous people who break that. In fact, people are so desperate to do this that they will ignore that. The second one then is that Facebook is going to get a human being, in those cases, a human, not an algorithm, not a machine, a human being, to check that those ads that fall into those specific categories aren't being discriminatory in any way. I think this is good. I think it's good that they're tackling it. I think they're a little bit slow on the uptake, and as Diana says, there could be a far better solution to this rather than just using these tactics. Let's see what happens there. Can I show you the Pinterest news now? The second bit of Pinterest news, and I drew my P better for this one. My first one is awful. This one slightly better. I find that a really hard logo to draw, I have to say. My second bit of Pinterest news, I like this. This excites me because I think it's a bit of augmented reality. So Pinterest are introducing this feature where you can take a photo of something that you've got, so a clock with something they mentioned, a pair of shoes, and then you use it to search Pinterest, and it'll find that pair of shoes or that clock in pins on the web, and it'll bring out pins. It will recommend pins to you that have that. So it could be good for style ideas, which would be good for me because I'm absolutely atrocious at fashion, as you may have noticed. It could be for interior design, or this is the one that really appeals to me now. You can take a picture of a type of food, broccoli for example, that's what they said, rather than a bar of chocolate, I do not know, but there you go. And it will pull up recipes that include that, because of course the photo of the broccoli or the chocolate will be included in the pin. I really like this. I'm not sure how well it's going to work initially because, you know, it's a new service, but I love this use of the camera and Pinterest. As I said, I think Pinterest are a very, very smart company. I think, you know, they're going to be the one that always makes the profit. One more bit of Facebook news then. Oh no, there's a bit more on that Pinterest news as well. They actually announced 3 things. That's one of them. This one, I can't believe I didn't show you this. You're going to see why this excites me so much in a second. Now, I don't know how new this is. In fact, I found this when I was looking for something else. But when you go into Pinterest and you search for something, there'll be like this little round circle on the thing which will bring up related searches. Now, I went and did a search for cats. It doesn't just happen when you search, by the way. It happens when you're logged in to Pinterest. Straight away you'll see pins. So there, look, look, look at that little cat. Sorry. And then you can click this little symbol at the top, the little search function, and it will bring up, now I don't know how long this has been here, Pinterest users may tell me it's been there for ages, but it will bring up, it takes a little thing, oh, you're looking for this cat? Yeah, Kate, I knew you'd like this one. And look, other pictures of cats. As if there's not enough in my Facebook feed, I may well have to go back to Pinterest now to look at that. So it's going to bring up related searches. You can do this not just from a search result. As I said, I logged into Pinterest, but the thing with my Pinterest, it's all full of boring social media and digital marketing news. And then you can click to get related searches underneath. Okay, last bit of news, and I do have a bit of time left. Last bit of Facebook news, and this isn't really business related, but it's just something I think that's really interesting that Facebook has done, and this relates to safety check. So you may have noticed when there's a disaster, natural or in a national emergency, Facebook realised that people would use Facebook as a communications tool to tell people they were okay. So a few years ago, they introduced this thing called Safety Check, which really handy during that thing in Germany that happened there just before Christmas at the Christmas market. You know, I have a friend in Germany. I didn't want to go and like fill up his Facebook wall going, "Are you all right?" But I just kept an eye and he was able to check in to say he was safe. They're extending this, and I'm going to have to grab my notes because what they're doing is kind of interesting. One second. Right, so what they're doing is, as well as checking in when it's just a natural emergency, so a volcano, an earthquake, maybe a big storm or something like that, a flood, people are going to be able to offer help during the emergency. So as well as checking in, people will be able to say, "Hey, I've got a place to stay for the night. Do you need a lift?" You know, something along those lines. This is smart from Facebook because at the moment, all that happens on Twitter. You may remember last year during the French terror attacks, people were opening up their homes to people who needed to be safe. And they were doing that. They were using a hashtag on Twitter. I think this is very clever from Facebook's point of view to offer this service, to be the caring face of it. And I think, you know, we see Airbnb all the time, you know, opening up free places to people who are stuck in an emergency. This is just Facebook's reaction to that. Sometimes I like Facebook, and this is one of the times I do. I like to see that they are thinking ahead and doing stuff along these lines. That's all the social media news for this week, but don't forget, if you know somebody who would be interested in watching this, click the share button underneath, let them know about it, share it to a group, share it to your profile, share it to your page. If you are a member of the Small Business Bloggers group, you can go over there at 10 a.m. There will be a thread where you can post your latest blog post and ask for comments. I'm actually going to post one out of the group in there shortly because it was so good to read this morning. And if you're not a member, go join. It's spiderworking.com/group. And don't forget your Valentine's content. I love you all. See you next week. Bye-bye.